Thank you very much for the opportunity to present some of the key milestones at IEO. There have been several over the last 5 years. The most significant would have been in 2012 when we decided to professionalize the office. Prior to that, evaluations were contracted out and there was largely an administrative role played by the evaluators in the office, although in some instances they did come in quite strongly. I took the decision based on the high quality and caliber of staff at the IEO, but also recognized that in taking such an approach, one would also need to cement the evaluation policy. It is a process that took several years, and last year at the board we came up with a new evaluation policy which clearly entrenches the principles of independence, credibility and utility, and is referenced to the United Nations Evaluation Group, our professional association, norms and standards. So stepping back from 2012, the approach to lead evaluation by IEO also needed a further level of support. And that support was brought in 3 years ago when we established an evaluation advisory panel, subsequently is now called an International Evaluation Advisory Panel, which is an eminent group of men and women who are the authors and thinkers in evaluation globally and represent all the regions. The office and I think the organization has seen the benefit of bringing in such an esteemed group who look at all the work of the IEO from the beginning till the end and provide very sound strategic and methodological advice. In a way, it is a sort of a peer review, and that has helped to significantly enhance the quality of evaluations at both the corporate level as well as at the decentralized level, the decentralized being the country level evaluations. Most of the work that IEO conducts is actually at the country level. And that is the system which used to be called the Assessment of Development Results, that is now called the Independent Country Program Evaluations, and we are now moving in the next few years to 100% coverage. Prior to that, we covered about 25% of the eligible countries that needed to be evaluated. By eligible, we mean after every 4-year cycle, a program needs to be appraised before the next program is confirmed. That is confirmed by the executive board, but it has to be based on sound evidence of what worked and what did not and what could be done better. So we have over 100 what is called Assessment of Development Results that are now moving into the new ICPE, the Independent Country Program Evaluation. That is not just a name change, it recognizes various parameters. One, it's independent, all are led by this office, and I have, in terms of policy proviso, sign off in name, final content of any evaluation. But it's also independent in that it is validated at the level of the country, and we present the results to the stakeholders, government and donors. There's a tremendous appreciation for this body of work. If one were to go to our website, you'll find you're able to get a story about UNDP performance over a long period of time across the globe, and it has been geo-referenced and heavily loaded. These evaluations are in all the UN languages, English, French, Spanish, but increasingly, because of the competency of language in the office, we actually conduct the evaluations as best we can in other languages, for example, Arabic. It is also important to point out that this year has been the 4th year in which the International Evaluation Advisory Panel met, and they made comment that they found a significant improvement in the way we've approached how we use them, but also the body of work of the IEO. Example, previously we used to just have one report. Now we have a series of evaluation products. So we have the main report, which is much more accessible and readable. In addition to that, we create an illustrated summary. We create videos to get the message across. We spent a lot of time in the office trying to demystify evaluation. Evaluation tends to create anxiety amongst people because at a definitional level, it is about a judgment of the program value and worth. Now that is a given, and it is important to make a judgment about the past in order to know how to move to the future. In the evaluation policy, we are quite explicit that there's 2 elements to it. One is accountability, the other is learning, but these are not diametrically opposed. You get learning in the process of accountability. So, when we talk about accountability, there's multiple levels of accountability. For the $5 billion that UNDP spends, the IEO is responsible, together with the oversight officers, largely audit, of assessing the value for money of UNDP programs across the globe. That is the criteria in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, relevance, and sustainability. We, of course, are revisiting all the criteria as we talk in order to also ensure that the UN values of inequality, etc., are also incorporated. So we're not just looking at the program from a pure technical point of view, but also what are the transformative interventions and the impact thereof. Coming back to the Evaluation Advisory Panel, we have members on the panel who have been editors of the key international evaluation journals, people who have been teaching evaluation for decades, in other words, the known names. But their purpose is to advise the director on the work and conduct of the office. So we have a very explicit work plan. In addition to that, I make available the report of the International Evaluation Advisory Panel to an oversight committee that I report to, which is called the Audit and Evaluation Advisory Committee. This is a committee that has 2 members who are evaluators, and they provide an overview and light assessment of the work of the IEO. So answering the question, who evaluates the evaluators, it is the AEAC. Obviously, that does not take away the accountability principle, as the director reports directly to and is accountable to the executive board. We get our program of work approved by the executive board, and in the last session we just had that being done. But in addition to that, all the work that we produce at the thematic level and at the country level is signed in name and presented directly to the stakeholders. Now, evaluation is always contested because it makes a judgment. And it is for that reason that it is fundamentally important that an evaluation office is not perceived as being captured. It's viewed as being credible. It is viewed as being an office that works on evidence and does not succumb to pressure because we make very strong judgments. Anyone who reads the body of work of the IEO will note that we do talk truth to power, but not in a way that is meant to be punitive. It is important to recognize that development is difficult. There will always be challenges, there will be strengths, and there will be weaknesses. And in order to ensure that this course correction, you need sound, credible, critical, independent evaluation. I also need to point out that many of the evaluation officers in the UN system, including members of the United Nations Evaluation Group, do not enjoy the standards of independence that the IEO does. Many report to management. They're embedded within a management function. That means that it has a limitation in its ability to cast judgment because it's subsumed within the organization. Given the fact that UNDP mainly works with program countries, donors, and partners, it's fundamentally important that an office like this is not captured within the confines of management structures. We are quite confident that we've reached that point. We have had very good cooperation from UNDP in respecting the independence. And one of the ways in which we test that, we have high quality management responses. A further transformation or milestone over the last few years, we now include the management responses in the main report as well as the illustrated summary. And these management responses contain timelines as to when management is going to act on certain elements. And it takes UNDP to a very, very high level of international transparency. And it is a good practice. I'm quite convinced about it. The executive board, to which the IEO reports, has asked us to also validate the extent to which these management responses have been acted upon in a more qualitative basis. So in the next few years, we are going to go back and look more deeply at the extent to which these responses are in fact not just tick box, but also have a dimension of quality. In other words, they are bringing about the changes, and we will be producing a report to that effect. In addition, whilst we produce about between 5 to 15 on any 1 year country program evaluations, it's important to understand what is this body of work telling us about the performance of UNDP. So we will be moving into the methodological realm of meta-synthesis, and our EAP is going to assist us in that regard. We're going to begin to communicate at a more creative level with a greater number of blogs. We've had our new website just launched so that we advance on multiple fronts. I am very satisfied with the progress that has been made by the IEO and the extent to which it has enhanced transparency and accountability of the UNDP globally. The staff of this office represent some 17 nationalities and speak a high number of languages, and they use increasingly personnel to support them in the evaluations that are from the countries themselves. This is a part of our contribution to national evaluation capacity. On another front, we have made great progress with the national evaluation capacity events, starting in Morocco in 2009, South Africa 2011, Sao Paulo 2013, 2015, Bangkok. We have moved this event from a small gathering of largely just government officials to make it a serious international evaluation event that brings together development practitioners, the UN system, as well as the governments to have a conversation on how to use evaluation to advance the development agenda. It is a watched event. The next one is going to be in Istanbul, and we will be talking about the SDGs. And once again, it's to demonstrate in very practical terms the power of evaluation for transformation, because ultimately evaluation is about changing people's lives. It's about enhancing democracy, and we think we've made great progress in that regard. Thank you very much.